Okay, now we're going to move into 5.4, Impact of Agricultural Practices. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to describe agricultural practices that cause environmental damage. So we're going to do this by describing the damage a few of them do. So you're going to notice a few of these might be familiar to you. So first we're going to start off with monoculture. So a monoculture is when you grow one single species in an area. So for example, this is how we grow wheat and lentils, garbanzo beans, corn, soybeans, any number of things here, particularly in the United States, are grown in a monoculture. So we can see in this picture, it looks like they're harvesting some beans and every plant is identical. So problems here is that it greatly reduces biodiversity because you're planting all the same plant. This makes them highly susceptible to disease and pests and also damages your soil. Because if you're only growing the same plant, they're all demanding the same ratio of nutrients. So it can deplete your soil, particularly of nitrogen. Tilling, we've talked about this one a few times, but tilling is the mixing and breaking up of soils. So you can see in these two pictures that soils that are not tilled are taking in CO2 and they're taking in water versus tilled soils which are releasing CO2 and releasing water. And this is because, again, we've mentioned the higher albedo or lower albedo, I'm sorry, of soils, meaning they're taking in that sunlight. We're having desertification, meaning they're becoming drier, they're losing that water. They're losing that water to the atmosphere. They're losing that CO2. They're losing nutrients in topsoil over time because they're more susceptible to erosion. So we need those plants and their roots to hold everything together. We've talked before about slash and burn agriculture, and this is the cutting down and burning of vegetation. It clears land, and sometimes farmers do this on purpose because they want to return the nutrients to the soil. Problems with slash and burn is that it releases greenhouse gases such as CO2, N2O, and CO. Again, I feel like a broken record. It lowers the albedo on the ground because we have bare soil, therefore leads to increased temperatures, and it also increases the particulate matter in the air. Now, we've mentioned slash and burn agriculture previously, but just to say one more time for the sake of repetition, slash and burn agriculture is cutting down and burning vegetation. So we've talked about this in clear cutting, but some farmers also do slash and burn as a way to return those nutrients to the soil from leftover harvest. Problems with this is that it releases greenhouse gases. So it's releasing CO2, N2O, and CO back into the atmosphere. Again, it's lowering, excuse me, albedo. And by lowering albedo, it means it's absorbing more sunlight and therefore increasing the temperature. As we burn things, it also increases the particulate matter in the air, which is a problem for people with asthma. I've mentioned synthetic fertilizers a few times, but these are the chemical nutrients we use to increase plant growth. Problems with fertilizers is again that they only feed the plant, and the leftovers leach, which is wash out, they leach from soils and enter nearby bodies of water, and this leads to something called eutrophication. So perhaps you've seen a pond like this before, and this is a eutrophic body of water, meaning it has excess nutrients and as a result is having a algal bloom, which leads to a whole host of other problems, which I guarantee you will have an entire video on at a later time. So to summarize, we covered agricultural practices that cause environmental damage. I feel a little bad because I used to live where this picture was taken. Most of my friends are farming a monoculture, but we need to get the word out there. So these practices that we talked about today are the monocultures, tilling, slash and burn, and synthetic fertilizer.